Hello and welcome to Bound to Talk Football. I'm your host, Blake Walker, Paul Arridge. Alongside of me, we have got another great episode of Bound to Talk Football coming up. It's our week one recap. Here, we had a great first week one. Jack Whitmore on our team said, in his words, it was one of the best week ones he's ever been a part of. It's debatable.
I don't know enough about week one, and
It was a good week one though. So we're excited to get started here. Thanks to everyone who has liked and subscribed and commented on the YouTube channel. It's blown up a lot better than we thought we would. We've upgraded, aka I bought a more expensive mic so I don't sound so bad, and then we'll try to get the updates set up as Paul's living in his college life. So
yeah,
we'll see how that works out.
Not going around. Money's not money.
So we're going to get started here. We're going to go through all of our games. I guess we'll start out the overall vibe. Paul, what did you do on Friday night? I know you were back in Cedar Falls where you're at UNI. What games did you watch? I guess I should say.
I watched the Centennial Ankeny game, which obviously, that's probably one of the most crazy games I've ever watched. And then I watched film on the Valley versus Southeast Polk game and the Dowling versus Kennedy game. Those are the three games I paid attention. I watched the Algona film too with Mansky. So a good fluctuation of games, but that Ankeny game was just ridiculous.
We'll talk about that one coming up. Yeah,
we had a little watch party for it, and we just thought it was gonna be like a massacre, like similar to the one with Brody and all them.
Yeah. And
then it just turned into a war. It was crazy. Both defenses finally locked in, it felt like. Ankeny's got some talent, which I wasn't really expecting.
I don't know if anyone was. We'll talk about it here in a few minutes. There's just something about week one that we get really good games. Harlan Lewis Central the last couple of years. This year was still good. It's so cliche to be like, oh, that was game of the year, but then it usually turns out to be that's game of the year. So that was one of the better high school games I've ever seen. I would have loved to have been there. I was in Waukee calling Waukee's game against Ames. We'll talk about that one. Fun football Friday. I did catch up on a couple streams at the end of the night. It's cool because we're starting to see more schools stream, which is awesome, which is phenomenal. I love being able to watch. Yeah. Thank you to all those schools. Makes our job easier. Granted, Twitter updates are great. Paul had Jeff Johnson's notifications on because I got him as well on my phone. I'm like, what is Jeff Johnson's tweets doing on my phone? Well, Paul had them turned on for the Dowling game. So I was like, oh, okay. But no, both we are checking hashtag IAHSFB all night long, but the live streams are really helpful if we ever miss anything. So shout out to everyone that does the live streams. So we're going to jump right in. We'll start in Class 5A. We have picked about 5, 6, 7 games per class to run down. Kind of go a little bit of in-depth on both of them. This will be a longer episode, but it's a recap of week one. Why not? We'll start out with Ankeny and Ankeny Centennial, a 39-38 victory in double overtime for Ankeny. The Hawks really... I checked in on this game about halfway through, and it was 17-0 or something like that. And I was like, all right, expected. Centennial goes on and does it. But the Hawks fought back. And Paul, I think we talked about the question marks that Ankeny had. I think they still have a couple. But you talk about buckling down, new head coach, week one, against your rival. Unbelievable what Ankeny did.
Yeah. For Bauer, first game as head coach, Bauer, it's electric. It's like a storybook way of getting your first win. Question marks for Ankeny, I'd say QB is still a question mark. We'll have to see how Luke does. Willed them to win, and he had a great pass to Daniel Larme to score the first overtime touchdown. But,
it was a wild
we'll have
throw.
To see how that goes.
Off his back foot. I saw that.
Bro.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people want to talk about that 2-point conversion. Don't know how it got through, but
let's talk about that 2-point conversion. I'm like, so there was a flag on the kick, right? They ran it. Was it encroachment?
Encroachment, yeah, twice.
So they move
had
up. Yeah.
that in.
So they move up to like the 1 or 2 or something like that. And then you're like, it's week 1, first game as a head coach. Bauer's thinking, let's just go for it. And I don't know if Luke was like, this is going to Akers the entire. I think it was. I think he literally said, this is going to Akers, and if he doesn't catch it, he doesn't catch it. He was double teamed, and I don't know if the Centennial guys just overplayed it. They almost picked each other, like they ran into each other.
Yeah.
The set of circumstances for that to work, you're just heartbroken if you're Centennial, because that play, like he tossed that up. I'm like, oh, it's over. He didn't catch it. And then all of a sudden Akers comes down with it. Just such a weird way to win a ball game, but what a catch and what a gutsy throw.
I mean, yeah. If I was a Centennial fan, I think the biggest thing I'd be upset about is that punt muff. I don't know if you saw that. We talked about that for like 10 minutes. We were like, what was happening? If you're looking at a call, I mean, this happens in every single game, so can't really put it in, like, say that cost you the game solely, but I mean, that was 7 points or field position at like the 1. That was really weird. But, hey, I mean, Ankeny battled back down to 17-0. Connor Kaiser looks really good. And Devin Akers, obviously, that terrific catch. Erlmeyer, they got a nice little squad. We'll have to see. I mean, they've got a big test coming up. But
yeah. Luke Anderson goes 14 of 30, 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. So not a bad debut for him. If you're Centennial, it sucks. Like there's no other way around it. It sucks, but you got to put it in the rearview mirror because this happens every year. Ankeny has lost to Centennial when they had no business losing to them, and then they go on and do great things. It's week 1, which if this happens later in the year, I think it hurts more, but you gotta just swallow it and move on. Like there's no other way around it.
Yeah, at this point, they're rooting for Ankeny just for the RPI bonus.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, Centennial, it sucks, but, I mean, Elijah Porter went absolutely nuts. He looks like he'll be a dog this year. And then I saw I think it was Chase Glover had 12 tackles.
How about that catch by Chase Shuddy in overtime? Back of the corner of the end zone. The whole overtime, just gutsy throws that I'm like, what are you doing? And then they make them. It's just, I don't know. It was ridiculous. Unbelievable.
Got the Philly QB sneak. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like of all things, it's just what a game. What a game. And 2 great teams. I mean, just if it's going to happen, those are the 2 teams that you love to see it happen to. So good for Ankeny. Southeast Polk defeats Valley 24-18. Connor Moberly goes 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. Paul, this game was closer than I think a lot of people thought it would. I don't know where our overreactions. Yeah, our overreaction segment is not till the end, and this isn't my overreaction. But should Southeast Polk be worried? Like, I didn't know. I just kept checking, and I'm like, no, Valley's amazing. Valley is very good. Zay Robinson's out for the season, unfortunately. We hated to hear that today for shoulder surgery. But, I mean, I don't know. I just thought it would be a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I mean, here, what I'd say is I think Valley it played with like nothing to lose mentality. Yeah. They had nothing to lose. I think they were really in a position to win that game. Like there was a chance. We're talking about Valley beating Southeast Polk, which no one would have predicted, and that would have been our one fluky loss that we were talking about earlier, where the team always loses. But
absolutely,
I think what this game made me realize is just how good Abu was, because like the running back, I mean, Abu would take over that game and drop like 5 touchdowns. He did it last year in every single game. I think it just, when you lose a guy like that, it's a big adjustment. It's not like a seamless reload. And CJ Phillips is a great back, but it's just such a hard replace. And they're set up fine. Moberly will be, he played great. And they've got their defensive line, especially Javin Woods, Mason Vanderbroek, Caleb Chubar. All those guys are going to be really good this year. So, Southeast Polk, fine. Valley, I'd be looking at it in a very positive.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I'd be saying where we have a chance to win it. I'd be happy if I was Valley. Nothing.
Yeah,
Never. You never want to say you're happy with the loss, but
it's
content.
yeah, I agree. I think that's a positive. I mean, that Southeast Polk team, we're talking about heavy favorite, looking at a three-time three-peat champion, and then Valley goes in and takes care of business. Cool uniforms, by the way. I really like the orange. That looked really good. But yeah, you're dead on. I mean, Abu Sama, definitely a big miss. It's kind of off topic, but he's currently at Iowa State, right? One of my friends that I work at Knoxville with, he records video for Iowa State practice, and he's like, Abu Sama, he's like, did not miss a step from high school. He's like, they were gonna put him at DB, and then he ran for so many yards in the spring game or whatever fall camp or whatever. So Abu Sama did not skip a beat. I know he's not very big, but he's going to be a force to be reckoned with at Iowa State. But yeah, good win for Southeast Polk. Good fight by Valley, like you said, better than I think we thought it was going to be. So
yeah, and I mean, I think when Jay McGregor gets into his own and the QB situation gets into his own, they'll be really good. So they're fine.
One of the bigger surprises of the Class 5A, Prairie defeats Cedar Falls 20-17. Will Phillips goes 18 of 28, 222 yards and 2 touchdowns. Drake Gelhaus did not play in this game. But Paul, if I'm Cedar Falls, you're disappointed to lose, but I'm just disappointed for him because this team realistically should be very good. And I think they still can be good, but this is a tough loss in week 1 against a Prairie team that, give them credit, came out and played, but they weren't expected to be much this year.
I mean, they lost their guy last year in McKell. So yeah, I mean, I was shocked. I literally I wasn't thinking about a loss for Cedar Falls.
I wasn't either.
But I think, just they got caught lacking a little bit on the road. Start the year, it's tough. And then Gelhaus being out, obviously. I mean, dude dropped 1,500 plus last year.
Well, and the defense can only do so much. That's a good defense. Only 20 points, but
20 is not. I mean, I think it's Apollo Payne, 2 receiving touchdowns that game. He showed out. I've heard good things about him at wide receiver. This is a pretty team that dropped. Did you say how many yards he throw through? 200 plus?
222, and then 2 touchdowns.
I mean, not too long ago, we were talking about Prairie rushing for 450 in a game, and that's it. So
this is it should put Southeast Polk on alert because week 3, Southeast Polk opens their first game ever at their new stadium. So emotions could be running high, but Prairie goes in there and has a chance. I mean, we saw Prairie almost beat Southeast Polk if it wasn't for Xavier Nwankpa's block field goal a couple years ago. So, there's a tricky team, and they got people on alert. Now that's the tough thing. Now people know who you are. But for Cedar Falls, you got plenty of time left. I think Johnston is next on their schedule. I'm not entirely sure, but they can rebound. It's a disappointing week 1 game for a team that a lot of people thought were going to be really good. So
they'll have Johnston. They'll have Johnston up next. That's a team they beat. I think it's twice.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm leaning Johnson so far. But Johnson, I would see. I mean, they're both kind of in a weird spot. Cedar Falls.
We'll get to Johnson.
We'll get to it. We'll get to the Johnson. Cedar Falls will need. I feel like they're gonna be jumping to do something.
Des Moines Roosevelt defeats Des Moines Lincoln 42-32. Jakari Patton 6 touchdowns. Roosevelt. This was the best game. These 2 teams are very good. Not amazing, but Des Moines wise, this was probably the battle for Des Moines. Des Moines North beat East 28-14 yesterday. Not a bad game, but Roosevelt, if Patton's playing the way he is, dangerous Roosevelt team. Defense worries me a little bit, but that's pretty good. It's a pretty good win, and it's good to see the Rail Splitters with a good start to the season as well.
Yeah, tight end Hudson Miller, 5 tutties. It's gotta be the most for a tight end in a long time.
So he's Roosevelt, right?
Yeah.
So That is insane because George Williams was one of the better tight ends I've ever seen last year at Roosevelt. I got to call a couple of those games. I'm like, this kid's unbelievable. The fact that they're able to go in and replace him is huge. That's a fun team. So good for Des Moines and Roosevelt. Good win over Lincoln. Iowa City West defeats Iowa City Liberty 35-28. How about Isaiah Lovelace? 7 catches, 191 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jack Wallace, a great game. This was the But if Ankeny and Ankeny Centennial didn't happen, this was a really good game, back and forth.
Yeah.
Iowa City Liberty is very good. Iowa City West, a little bit better.
Did you figure out if this was a trophy game?
I don't think it is.
They got to make that a trophy game, right?
It has to be. Any Iowa City game, I feel like it has to be. But, dude, I mean, Liberty held their own. I think they're going to be just fine. But Iowa City West, people on notice. I mean, we didn't put it on here, but Iowa City High got beat pretty bad by Joliet Catholic, but it's Joliet Catholic. Drew Larson had a great game. Iowa City is going to be fun. Just the city in general, schools are really competitive this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm be really happy if I was Iowa City West. I mean, Wallace played great. So far, it looks like Christian Janis to Isaiah Lovelace will be a seamless, nice little transition. Yeah. So, and then I haven't checked the boxer yet, but I'm assuming Ashton on defense was good. Ashton Hunter. So, yeah, I mean, that's like a huge win to start the season for them because they've kind of had a deflating, like last season was kind of deflating. I feel like mid-season point, they were like at a point where you're like, okay, we can do something in the playoffs. And then they ran into Iowa City High, and then they ran into Bettendorf, which was like a shocking game that they lost. So they needed like a statement win to start the year, and they got it.
I'm going to touch on it real quick. Is Bettendorf back? 30-10 win over Pleasant Valley or something like that? Like, are the Bulldogs coming back?
Yeah, they might. Hey, I don't know. I have to watch the film, but
that's a good win over a Pleasant Valley team.
Big win. Yeah, UB is always going to turn into a team that's decent. Like they're never going to be awful. And
Johnston defeats Waukee Northwest 23-17. Northwest had a chance to win this game late in the going. Oh, I don't know, man. I said I will be cautious about Johnston. What kind of team do they have? I think beginning of last year, Johnston would have lost this game. So good for them to win this game. I didn't have stats on this one because they hadn't put them in when I had looked, but I'm a little uneasy if I'm a Johnston fan.
Yeah, I was a little uneasy, but I mean, one of these things similar to the Valley Southeast Polk game where like, shout out Waukee Northwest, Sam Johnson, easily probably the best game of his career. It's a defense that's good, like a defense that returned a good amount. It's not like this is a new thing.
And he deserves it. I mean, he didn't have a great year last year, and I'm pretty sure he'd tell you the same thing. And he comes out and he does his job. And I think Northwest, close loss, but circle Waukee Northwest next week because I think that'll be really fun to talk about. We'll touch more on Johnson Waukee Northwest in a little bit as we get to the end of the show. Paul's got something to say about that one. Speaking of Waukee defeats Ames 35-7. I called this game. Paul, Beckett Baker has arrived.
Yeah,
124 yards.
This game as well. Yeah, this game.
124 yards, 2 touchdowns in the air, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. I told you before we started, Beckett Baker will be a 4 to 5 star when he graduates high school. I truly believe that. This kid is unbelievable. I watched him last year, and he showed flashes because he was just a freshman in the CIML. Unbelievable step from what he has. I told you he could throw across his body better than anyone I've ever seen. His stride looks like Trevor Lawrence when he takes off. I mean, this kid, he's only 5'10", but man, he is good. And Waukee, they got some boys over there in Waukee. They should have a lot excited for it.
I'll put the 4-star, 5-star in the bold take category because that's a high bar. I mean,
the size is there, but I mean, just what he's doing as a sophomore. Ames was good. I think Ames, I'll speak on Ames for a second. Losing Dallas Salzer was big. They kind of ran between Cameron Cantwine. He's a good running style quarterback. Kind of reminds me of a Tim Tebow type. I mean, he's just kind of built like it. He can take off. He can throw a little bit. So I think that'll be one of the big one. Jeffrey Roberts or Robert Jeffrey, something like I can't remember his name, but for Ames, really good. I mean, good wide receiver. They have a couple pieces. They're going to have a tough start to the schedule, but their back half is pretty good. Could sneak into the playoffs. But Waukee, man, really good. Really good.
Yeah, electric start for them. I mean, I was kind of expecting something like that, but it's picture perfect to see Beckett just like dominate. Like they have a sophomore come in the year and just dominate. And I mean, he was good his freshman year, like a solid quarterback. And
it was.
So he took a leap. That's always a big leap. So
Dowling Catholic defeats Cedar Rapids Kennedy on a Saturday in Kingston, 38-21. Rashad Davis runs for 5 touchdowns. Kennedy is good. I think they're going to be just fine. I think this might be their only loss of the season. Dowling is right back to where they expected them to be. What are your thoughts on this one? You watched film for it.
Yeah, I thought that Dowling offensively, this is a very good receiving core and a really good running back. Like they're really good.
Transfer from Colfax and Mingo.
Yeah, CJ and then Hank Brown and Trey Wilson. Those 3 are all just good. They're Dowling wide receivers that just do what they need to do perfectly. And then you got Rashad, obviously, who's – I mean, I've heard players say that he's the best running back they've seen, which the players I've talked to played against Abu. We'll see how that goes. But, yeah, I mean, their offense looks good. Dante looks more than capable to lead a team to the dome. But for Kennedy, I mean, huge. They were in this game. Like this 38-21, 14 doesn't really tell the story. No. It was 24-21, I believe, late third. So, I mean, it sounds harsh, but for Eastern Iowa teams, they just want to know that they're there. They can compete.
No, you're right. You're right.
We saw it with last year with the Iowa City High team having to go to Dowling. They kind of just got walked on it. It's just normal, like for CIML teams to do that. But when you compete with one, it proves that you have a chance. So that's big for them because this is a game where now I don't know who they have up next on the schedule, but I'm assuming to me another like Eastern Iowa team, not going to be a Central Iowa team,
something like that.
Something like
that. Either way, yeah, you're right. Just good, sound football by Cedar Rapids Kennedy. They're going to be just fine.
Gene Forte looked really good, and then Cyrus is a dog.
Yeah, so good win for Dowling Catholic to start the season 1-0. We get Dowling Valley this upcoming week. I get to call that game. I'm very excited. Dowling Valley. That'll be pretty fun. Quickly wrapping up 5A, just one more thing. Shout out to Cedar Rapids Jefferson. Got their first win since 2019 over Muscatine. Congratulations to the Hawks of Cedar Rapids Jefferson. We're going to move on to Class 4A. Quickly swing through these two. We didn't have stats on them. Glenwood defeats Sioux City East 28-14. This Glenwood team, solid. Anderson at quarterback has been pretty good to start the season. That's a good win over a good 5A Sioux City East team, who, oh, by the way, almost beat Centennial last year. I know it's a different team, but good win for Glenwood to start the year. And then Humboldt defeats Spencer 20-3. Humboldt's defense showed out in that one. That's a good battle of running backs. So those are two games that just kind of stood out. Lewis Central gets past Harlan 21-20. What was my stat for this game? Brady Hetzel, the new quarterback at the helm, 226 yards, 1 touchdown. If anything, Paul, I learned more about Harlan in this game than I did Lewis Central. The Cyclones still got it. I mean, it sounds crazy, but those boys still got it in Class 3A.
Yep. We're either looking at both teams took a step back, or we're looking at they just didn't.
You're very right. It could be, overall, maybe not as good as we thought.
Yeah, because the big thing is they lost. I mean, quarterback is such an important position. And not only did they lose quarterback for both teams, they lose their guy, like Jonathan Humpo and Aiden Hall. So, I mean, you're seeing like an entirely new team out there. So it's early. So to say like they're still like the top teams in the state for their classes is probably bold. But I mean, we've learned that at least for now, we know these two teams are going to be at least competitive, like top.
Lewis
teams.
Central trailed most of this game. Like I sent it to our group chat and I'm like, what is going on? It was like 14-3. I'm like, Harlan is still here. And then Lewis Central kind of fought things back together, got a couple stops on defense. Classic Harlan Lewis Central game. I mean,
I was about to say classic. This game literally it actually doesn't disappoint.
Never fails. And we'll see it on the schedule next year. Yeah, so really cool stuff. The shocker, I'd say shocker. North Polk defeats Bondurant 43-39. Isaac Zosky, 226 yards, 4 touchdowns in the air. North Polk trailed 18-3 at the end of the first quarter, 24-10 at the half, 39-30 to end the third, and scored 13 unanswered to win 43-39. Cade talked about this on their post-game show on Friday for IA Sports, that all the hype was around Bondurant and 4A. They're like, cool, everybody's going to be Titus Cram, everyone else. North Polk just kind of sneaks up to 4A. Nobody's talking about it. North Polk just put everybody on the radar because that is a really good win on the road, may I add, in Bondurant. How about that? What a game.
They're on the map. They're on the map. Isaac Zosky, 226 yards, 4 tutties. I mean, crazy. This game was like an instant classic. We're talking about like top games. I mean, Jordan Morale threw for 340 and 4 touchdowns for Bondurant, and that led to a loss. Like, this game was crazy.
The defense worries me for both sides because North Polk's defense wasn't great last year. I think about the 65 points or 60-some points they gave up to ADM in the playoffs. But I don't know. I just feel like defense is going to be big for both these two teams. But what did Titus finish with? You have his stats right there?
With like 100, 200 per all-purpose yards about.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Defensive, anything thrown out the window, offensive shootout. Good for North Polk. That's a big win. I just still don't think they're a favorite in 4A, but now this means they could really turn some heads. Bondurant gets a game with Grinnell this upcoming week.
I have a stat right here that just told me of how North Polk won this game.
Okay.
4 fumble recoveries.
All right. There it is. We found out our answer. So that, hold on to the ball.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. All right. That's all we need to say about that game. Bondurant gets Grinnell next week. Should get back on track. Grinnell beat CPU 14-3, so pretty good defensively, but Bondurant should be fine. Good for North Polk. Big win. Just wanted to quickly throw this one in here. Boone gets past Knoxville 15-14. The Toreadors have not been good the last couple of years. So you know what they did? They scored with 50 seconds left and said, you know what? We're just going to go for 2. And that's what they did. So they went for 2 and 1. Good win for Boone. We'll go down Highway 14 to Newton, where the ADM Tigers defeated the Cardinals 49-21. Aiden Flora was the standout of this one, 5 of 10 for 85 yards in the air with 1 touchdown, but he ran for 165 yards and 3 touchdowns. I talked to a couple people at Knoxville yesterday who are Newton fans that were at that game, and they were like, they just can't be stopped. I mean, the defense was good. The Newton's points came in garbage time. Pretty much a lot of the second stringers were in. No surprise, ADM looks like they're going to be really good.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a single game where Aiden Flora and Brevendale don't both have 100-plus yards.
Don't think they don't not crack 35 every game.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. Newton's a good team.
Yeah, they are. I mean, that's a good – I think Newton only wins or only loses 2 games this year, 2 or 3 games. Like, they're going to make the playoffs, I think. Mm-hmm. That's a good win.
Yeah.
Xavier, probably the biggest statement. Well, there's 2 big statements. Well, there's a couple statements, but Xavier defeats Waverly Shell Rock 41-6. Ronan Thomas, 7 of 9, 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ran for 18 yards and 1 touchdown as well. 41-6. I know Waverly Shell Rock's not the team that they were, but man, this Saints team just so experienced. I just don't see how they lose a game.
I mean, it just looked easy. Like, it's what
the videos. Yeah, the videos that I saw, like, it's effortless for some of those guys. Yeah. Ronan Thomas, I mean, he just looks so comfortable. Like, he just doesn't look like he has a care in the world. He just kind of goes about his business. They're just so scary because they know they're good. And that's the scary thing. When a team knows they're good, Coach Schulte keeps them in line. I guarantee it. He's one of my favorite coaches in the state, but man, they are just so good.
I mean, there's a lot of coaches that wish their starting quarterback only had to throw 9 passes week 1 to win 41-6.
Yeah. Webster City gets past Fort Dodge 35-28. How about Jackson Cherry, man? 266 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. From the stats, it looks like Jackson did everything in this game. Webster City is still going to be highly ranked. The defense definitely has got to be there. But Jackson Cherry, possible 1,500 yard rusher, maybe 2,000 yard rusher, off to a pretty good start.
Yeah. No, Jackson's legit. 200 plus. He's going to be doing that all year. And then I want to talk about Jayshawn Ross. He went off at Fort Dodge. It looks like he's only a sophomore. He's scored offers from Iowa, I believe, Purdue, and Wisconsin.
Okay.
Like 108 total yards rushing, and he had 8 tackles at linebacker. So, not to steal from the shine of Jackson Cherry, obviously, but hey, Fort Dodge fans, got a guy.
Dodgers might be a sneaky team. Love to see it. Last game of Class 4A. Oh, this gets me excited because I talked them up. I'm so glad they showed up. Western Dubuque defeats West Delaware 61-27. Grant Glosser runs for 206 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he caught 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like 4 touchdowns total. This whole team was rolling, and Western Dubuque has, after week 1, living up to the hype.
61. Oh my gosh.
61 points.
It's an 8-man score.
Yeah. Bobcats looking good. Good win for them. I think the schedule gets tougher, obviously, as the season goes on a little bit, but good win for them. Moved on to Class 3A. I don't have stats for this one, but shout out Bishop Heelan defeats Kemper Catholic, a goal line stand. Did you see this video?
I did not.
Goal line stand. They couple stops. Look like your classic goal line stand. Think of the Bush push from USC, but if Notre Dame would have stopped them. That was what this game was. So good for Bishop Heelan. Good win.
That's got to be that's right up there in most electric ways to win a football game.
Oh,
goal line stands.
You feel undefeated. I did not play high school football. I didn't play high school athletics. But in my time of playing middle school football, we had a goal line stand my 7th grade year against the Newton Cardinals. And I tell you what, I walked into school the next day as a 7th grader thinking I was the coolest thing in the world. Like, I didn't make the tackle to win the game, but I was like, I was a part of that. So, I don't know. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Shout out Grinnell Middle School football. Carroll defeats Greene County 20-0. Carter Essick, 139 yards, 3 touchdowns. Greene County kind of let me down. I spoke highly about Greene County, and they put up a dud. Carroll, though, that's a good win over a good Greene County team. Do we need to keep our eye on the Tigers here, or what are we doing?
I think we might have to, especially blanking a team. It's tough week 1, no matter what. Yeah.
That's
Carter Essick, 3 tutties, only a junior too.
Yeah. Nevada defeats West Marshall 31-0. You remember all those close games between West Marshall and Nevada? Did not happen this year. Nevada blanks West Marshall. I think Connor King is his name. Nevada found a quarterback. He did really well. Good job on defense by Burlage. Good win for Nevada. They're a sneaky team, man. I mean, the last couple of years they've been good. I guess I'm kind of biased because my uncle's one of the assistant coaches up there, and my aunt and uncle go up there to Nevada. They teach up there, but that Nevada team, fun team. They've lost to Harlan 2 years in a row in the playoffs, which what are you going to do? I mean, they're just a buzzsaw, but good Nevada team gets past a good West Marshall team. Mount Vernon defeats Monticello 35-6. Joey Romberg went off 20 of 36, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ran for 23 yards and 1 touchdown. Mount Vernon looks like they have not skipped a beat.
Yeah, no, that was picture perfect for Joey Romberg. I mean, this is a game that's supposed to be like somewhat close. Not
closer.
I mean, closer. Not, you don't have to say like a barn burner, but I mean, you think that it was a little more competitive, and Joey Romberg just went absolutely nuts.
I kind of worried about Mount Vernon in a way, because I was like, we haven't seen them at the top. Like some teams get to the top and you're like, how do they respond to being at the top when they have such high expectations? So I was kind of worried about this game, but Mount Vernon goes out and takes care of business handily. I can't say handily. Sorry. They take care of business. So good for them. Assumption defeats Solon 34-7. Assumption. We were talking about this game, and I was like, "Yeah, Solon looks pretty good." And then we looked at Assumption and what they were.
And I just looked at their returning everyone.
These boys are good. Assumption
Angelo
is
Jackson.
very, like they're an Eastern Iowa team. They're gonna play tough opponents. They're gonna play like 5A schools all year. This team could make it to the Dome. Like they have a good set of weapons. That's a good Solon team that they beat up on. So keep an eye out for Assumption.
They already have their identity too.
Yeah, that's true.
To run the ball, 45 carries, and Angelo Jackson seems legit as well. So
what was his final stat line? Read it off again.
It was 221 yards and 3 tutties.
Insane. Last one, Williamsburg gets past West Branch. The Raiders found a quarterback. Paul, I don't know if you saw this. Kellen Cockrell, 226 yards, 5 touchdowns, 37 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Dude started in his first game at quarterback, and he goes 6 touchdowns. I know he has plenty of weapons. Weiskopf didn't even have a great game. It was the rest of the supporting cast. Are you serious? Like, come on.
Important note, too, this game was 42-0 at half.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Spoiler, Williamsburg Xavier is our 4A game of the week this week. Oh, I don't know, man. That game is going to be
tough game to call. That's a tough game to call.
I don't even know. Williamsburg, man, fun to watch. Good for them. Good for Kellen Cockrell. Class 2A, Spirit Lake defeats Algona 30-22. Bodie Higgins, 118 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Algona was leading this game for quite a bit, and I was like, all right. I was like, here we go. Bulldogs starting to put together. Spirit Lake comes back. Alex Mensky had a great game, but Spirit Lake, that's a good win over a good team. Mensky still went off, though.
Yeah. Mensky had a great game, 285 yards passing and then 132 rushing. Algona fans, I wouldn't be upset.
I think they're going to be fine. Yeah. I think they're going to be fine. Good job by Spirit Lake coming back into this game and taking care of business. This was a game that I think a couple people thought was going to be close. I thought it was going to be a little bit closer. Mediapolis defeats Columbus 33-7. Aiden Nelson, 5 catches, 104 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The man caught the ball and said, I'm scoring almost every single time. Mediapolis, pretty solid team. Took care of business against a good Columbus team. I know they lost a little bit from last year. North Union defeats Okoboji 26-12. Somebody in our DMs asked me to talk about this game. I'm like, what's so special about this game? North Union was down by 12 with 8 minutes left and came all the way back and won. So good for North Union. Good win for them. I don't have any stats from that game. OABCIG defeats Esterville Lincoln Central. Paul, first ever game post DeJean Brothers era for OABCIG. And Bryson Kohler goes off. 247 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think OABCIG is going to be just fine.
Yeah. That's electric to have someone just step in and do that.
Well, and you got to think he's learned from the best. I mean, he's played under 2 very, very good quarterbacks. So good to see that. That was 33-14. St. Ansgar, I know they're a Class A team, but St. Ansgar goes all the way up and faces 2A Osage and wins 25-24. Shout out to the Saints. This one I was checking on all night long. Van Meter defeats Underwood 21-14. Ben Gordon goes 154 yards, 1 touchdown, 40 yards in the air, 1 touchdown. I picked Underwood in this game. I was the only one that picked Underwood. And the reason I did was because I just heard Van Meter, the quarterback, they just didn't know how was the quarterback going to do. Turned out he was great. Van Meter's defense, man, that was the big one at the end of the day that got them past Underwood. Underwood's still going to be great, but good. That's just Van Meter football, baby.
Ben Gordon's just Iron Man. He also had 8.5 tackles.
Yeah, I did. The linebacker core for that Van Meter team returned quite a bit. We talked about that in our preview for the preseason. So Bulldogs look fine. That's a good Underwood team. They play Humble in a couple weeks. Sneaky game. Should be pretty fun to watch those two. Last one I want to talk about, PCM defeats Sigourney Kyoto 22-15. I had pretty highly talked about Sigourney Kyoto for the ground and pound, but the Mustangs get the job done 22-15. PCM state champions a couple of years ago. Might be trying to get back to that rhythm. They play Pella Christian this week. That'll be a really good game. We'll move down to Class 1A. Technically was our Class A game of the week, but North Lynn defeats Albernet 23-7. I didn't get to watch this game a lot, but North Lynn defensively, I don't know if you could pull up the stats if it's there, but North Lynn, that's a good win for the Lynx to start the year.
Yeah, that was an electric one. It's supposed to be, 23-7 is pretty handily dubbed it. Stats-wise, Jake Van Etten, great game for him. He had a tutty and 100-plus yards. Nothing's too crazy on the stat sheet. Just looks like
I didn't think it was going to be a crazy game. But.
Yeah. Congrats to North Lynn coming out 23-7 right away. Start the season on the road, right?
Oh yeah. I think it was on the road. I talked about it there before. Pella Christian gets past Des Moines Christian 49-35. Pella Christian lost a lot off last year's team. So to see them put up 49, that's pretty good. That PCM game is going to be really fun. This was our Class 1A game of the week. Grundy Center defeats Dyke New Hartford with an astounding score of 7-6. 7-6 was the final score. Yeah. I think it was either missed or it was either blocked. I can't remember. But Colin Gordon, 14 carries, 109 yards, and a touchdown. He only threw for like 98 yards in the air. But this is a classic Grundy Center Dyke New Hartford game. I'm going to save my thoughts on this one. Hint, hint, wink, wink. We'll come back to this one later in the show. But good win. Grundy Center takes care of business. Madrid defeats Woodward Granger 28-27 to win the Battle of the Bridge for the first time. Tyler Fuller, 10 carries, 174 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
This kid went off. Yeah. Close game all throughout. Good for Madrid. They're a fun team. Those are 2 very good teams. Great game. Glad we got that post out for him because that's a cool trophy. That's a really cool trophy.
Yeah. Probably one of the coolest trophies there is.
Quick other ones that I wanted to touch on in Class 1A. South Hamilton gets past South Hardin 20-14. That was a good game. South Hamilton's supposed to be pretty good. And Woodbury Central defeats Lawton Bronson 27-24. I don't know if you can quickly pull up stats for that one, Paul. I didn't see him when I was there. But Woodbury Central sneaking past Lawton Bronson. 2 very good teams.
Yeah, Clunder had a good game. 186 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, threw 3 interceptions. So not perfect, but
it's week 1.
4 touch. Actually, had 3 touchdowns. Sorry, 3 touchdowns. What'd you say?
I just think it's week 1, so you just expect that. Lawton Bronson, keep an eye on him. Good team. I think they're going to be right there with them. Sneak down to Class A. We only had 3 games to talk about here. Not really a busy week in Class A. Kingsley Pearson. Congratulations. Welcome to Class A. They win their first ever game and their first ever time in Class A. Defeat Alta Aurelia 27-7. Bo Goodwin, we knew he was going to be good. 296 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah. I don't think people realize how big that is to make a jump.
Oh, no. That can't be right. Sorry.
What?
Hold on. This stat sheet.
Uh-oh.
1 second. You could keep talking. I got to look at this.
Okay.
If it happens, it's nuts.
So Kingsley Pearson, we got to give him credit because you go 8-player to A, the field gets bigger. You put more players on the field. Like the fact that they're able to field a bigger team means a lot to that program. So good for Kingsley Pearson. That's a good week 1 victory. Paul is astounded by a possible typo, but you never know. Paul, what do you got?
Bo Goodwin had 3 interceptions this game on the defensive side of the
ball. No way.
Yeah, you're about to see a post come out in about 40 minutes after this.
Okay. Let's also touch on Mason Mitchell Ethan, or I can't. What was it? Mitchell from Mitchell Smith from West Hancock. unbelievable game. I don't know if he had the 4 defensive touchdowns, but Wes Hancock had 4 defensive touchdowns in the first half. Do you want to check on that one real quick?
Yeah, I'm checking. I mean, they have 3 fumble recoveries I see and 2 interceptions.
Oh
2 of them are returned for a TD, and both interceptions returned for a TD. So there you go. 4.
Dude's playing quarterback, and then he goes on defense and says, I'm going to get the job done. So, all right. Well, there you go. This podcast will be out on Monday, but expect to see a Bo Goodwin post because we missed that completely. But 3 picks.
Interceptions is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous being a DB. Bo is a quarterback.
Sumner Fredericksburg defeats East Buchanan. I was obsessed with this game because East Buchanan is really good. It's returned a lot from last year's team that made it to the Dome. Davis Van Sickle goes 224 yards and 2 touchdowns in the air. Sumner Fredericksburg, dude, that's a good win. That means their defense showed out. There's just something about Class A, good defenses, but good win for Sumner Fredericksburg over a very good East Buchanan team.
Yeah. Defense strong.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to see. Last one on Class A, Grandview Christian got past Martinsdale St. Mary's 27-26. Grandview Christian scored with 5.7 seconds left. So good for, is it the Thunder or the Lightning? Is it Lightning there, mascot?
Lightning.
Something like that. Lightning. So good for the Lightning with the win over Martinsdale St. Mary's. We are on to Class A player. Oh, Thunder? Okay.
Yep.
Thunder, Lightning. I don't know. Their logo is lightning, so I don't know. We're on to Class 8 player. We had some insane Class 8 players. I didn't put it on here, but BGM scored 96 points, and the quarterback we posted about it had 8 touchdowns, something like that.
Yeah.
Good for BGM. Yep. Good win. Cam defeats Audubon 42-12. Chase Speaker threw a couple picks, but had a good night. 164 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 119 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns. Looks like he's going to follow in his brother's footsteps for how good he is. Cam, good team. I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
As Paul nods. Yep.
Right up. What'd you say? What?
No, I was just like, yeah, Paul's going to nod.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to pull up the stats because.
What do you got? You got the stats pulled up?
Oh, I do. So did you not have stats on speaker?
No, I did. I didn't know if you had any other stats about any of their guys.
Oh, any other stats? I mean, clean game turnover wise. There you go. And then 5.1 yards a carry. There you go. Even game. Love it.
I guess I'll talk about it. You can switch over. Winfield Mount Union defeats Central City 44-36.
Yeah.
All we talked about it. We wanted to see, is Winfield Mount Union going to show up? Because we were like, you've been good. You have one of the best players in the state in Cam Buffington. Where are you going to show up? They showed up, and Cam Buffington showed up. I'll read his offensive stats. He had 3 catches for 81 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he ran for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns. And what did he do on defense?
I mean, just a nice slight 15.5 tackles with the fumble recovery.
Like, dude, come on now. What are we doing?
Hey, I said it last pod. I said he's going to drop something like 200-plus yards and 15-plus tackles, and he did that, but better.
I think we'll get to it. I think Gladbrook Rhinebeck still should be the top team. But Winfield Mount Union just jumped to like number 2 for me because now they're putting it together. That's a good Central City team, man. I mean, that's a team that's probably going to go to the Dome, has a good chance to. That's a good.
Tom Bach was talking to me about it. He was like, Central City's good. Like, yeah. He doesn't cover high school sports, so when he was looking at our stats and seeing the returning, he was like, "Whoa!"
They get the. I'm gonna have Matt make a post about it this week, but they get the Tractor Bowl this week against Springville. If you've never seen that trophy, it's a toy John Deere tractor on a plaque, and it's really cool. It was like one of the first posts I ever made when I got here to Bound. I'm like, hey, this is a really cool game. It's a tractor. So you get the Tractor Bowl coming up this week for Springville, who did win their week 1 matchup. So that'll be a fun game. Gladbrook Rhinebeck defeats Don Bosco 34-21. Isaac Clark did Isaac Clark things. 7 of 17, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. He ran for 57 yards and a touchdown. Don Bosco has gotten Gladbrook Rhinebeck's number the last couple of years. I'm still going to go. I think the Rebels are the best team in 8 player, like really good defensively.
Yeah, you see, we're riding with them. Me and you were the only ones that rode with them this week.
Well, yeah. So a little bit of background. We post. I send our games to the group chat, all of our picks. Which Paul, you went 7-0, I think.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did. He's like, yeah, I did. 7-0 to start. I think I went like 5-2 or something like that. I post these in the group chat, and like I know Matt and Jack and I do. We really study up, or at least we do. I tell you what, Leah and Ellie and them, like Leah studies. I know that, or at least it seems like she does. She really goes in. She had a really good record last year. I think I had the best record. Then she was second. You were third, but and then Sydney was
shaky when it's got the 2A 1A.
No, we put those posts in. I'm like, man, we're so chalk. Like we all picked Xavier, we all picked Grundy Center, which we got lucky. Alburnett, like the lower classes got a little iffy. Ellie picked Harlan, which almost worked. But then we get to 8-player, and I'm like, I was like, did anybody not look at or listen to us talk about Gladbrook Rhinebeck? Because I was like, we were the only ones.
Yeah.
Didn't you respond to Isaac on Instagram? Be like, hey man, we picked you. Or was that you or so? Yeah.
Yeah, that was me. I said we showed love.
So that was, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm like, come on, guys. We put these rankings out. We're not putting out any more rankings, by the way. We're just gonna leave that to everyone else. But yeah. So good for Gladbrook Rhinebeck. Good win. Zuma defeats Southeast Warren 47-28. Brady Bolton goes off. I'll talk about him in here a little bit, so we'll save him. West Bend Mallard defeats New Alfonda 44-16. This is a New Alfonda team, Paul, that has been very good. Landon Montag goes 5 for 5 for 89 yards, but he ran for 147 yards and 3 touchdowns. New logo for West Bend Mallard. They got rid of the Wolverine-looking logo. Now it's like a yellow and purple paw or whatever, but that's a good win for West Bend Mallard. You got stats on that game, or you just?
Yeah, I do actually. I did some stats if you want to take a look.
What do you got?
I mean, pick that interception, huge.
Did he really?
Yeah, Landon Montag, 147 yards. You talked about him already, so there you go. You covered it, dude. You're on top.
Wow, there we go. I don't have any stats for it, but Remsen St. Mary's defeats Harris Lake Park. It'd be such a Remsen St. Mary's thing to just stay good after losing what they lost. So good for them. That's all we got for 8-player. It's time for standout performances, or our Friday night standout, as we're going to call it. I'm going to start with mine. I went to
FNS. Nice abbreviation.
Yeah. FNS. There you go. I'm going to go to Pleasantville, where Caleb Cook cooked 280 yards rushing for 5 touchdowns. He had 2 catches for 63 yards. He had 1 kick return for 17 yards, which gave him 360 all-purpose yards, which as of this afternoon is the most out of anyone in the state that has put stats in. So good for Caleb Cook, who did indeed cook in Pleasantville's 31-7 or 31-0 win over I-35. Shout out Caleb, you get my Friday night standout. 360 yards. I hope he iced up because the heat was a problem. We were just talking about it. Cramps were terrible all across the state, and I hate to say it, next week does not look any cooler. It looks like it's going to be hot. Paul, who do you got for your Friday night standout?
We're actually in audible, Blake. We're in audible. We're going to Kingsley Pearson because Bo Goodwin, 3 tutties, 296 yards. I mean, 3 interceptions on the defensive side. Really wish I didn't miss this before because that might be the best solo person, like individual game I've ever.
Well, so here's the thing. I'm gonna preface this. So we post our stuff on Saturday, right? Like we get a lot of our post out Saturday, and then we record this. It is Sunday night. It's like 10:45 at night when we're recording this on Sunday because it'll go out Monday. I just want to preface, and I don't go after any coach, but I don't know why we can't have stats in. Like, I get it. If you lose, sometimes you're like, okay, I don't, not in a hurry, but stats are so important. I mean, it really stinks when a player says, hey, I did this. And then we're like, okay, but can we get more? Like It's just good to have those stats, and we want to highlight these players. We do. But in that case, I don't think that Kingsley Pearson stat went in. Clearly didn't go in till today. So we just missed it. We'll post about it, but it's a little delayed. So it's not a rant. I'm just like, and I think a lot of people agree with me. We just love when stats are put in.
Yeah. I think it's more of a like, just in case people are wondering why their player didn't get a shout out.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest one. Like, can we post about every single stat in the state? No, we cannot. And we can't post about every game. I'd love to. We can't. We don't have time to do that because there's 300, 200 plus games in the state of Iowa on a Friday night. But just because we don't post about your game, just because we don't post about your stat, does not mean that we don't like you. We like every single player in the state, every single team in the state. We want to celebrate that. It's just sometimes it just doesn't work out. So I just wanted to put that out there because I knew we had people commenting, we had people, posting. They're like, dude, you didn't post about this. We're there. I think we did a better job this week posting about lower classes, which we're just going to keep getting better at. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Congratulations to our two Friday night standouts, Caleb Cook and Bo Goodwin. It's time to move on to
the reward is the graphic that I'm literally going to make in about.
Okay, so the reward is the graphic. I definitely want to give out gear to some of these guys. I think I told you the idea. I want bound football gloves so bad. Like, I just want a player to score a touchdown, just put up like the bound logo. I just think that would be the coolest thing in the world. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but keep an eye out. I'm talking to Sam. I really want to get a merch store out or something like that, just so we can get some stuff out. We need some Bound to Talk football T-shirts or something like that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, just keep an eye out for that. It's time to move on to a new segment, aka this whole thing's new. What am I saying? It's time for Bound to Overreact, where Paul and I will go way in depth and overreact way too big in week one. I'm going to start with my overreaction. Grundy Center returned their entire offense, returned a lot of their defense, and they only won 7-6. Now, Dike New Hartford, great team, phenomenal team. It was a road game. My younger brother Tyler was there taking photos, great photos, by the way. He thought the stadium was nice, blah, blah, blah. And I get it. It's been a close game the last couple of years. But, man, 7 points for that offense, I just again, it's an overreaction. They're going to be fine. But, man, you talk about just a week one where I looked at that score. I'm like, man, you brought all that back and you only scored 7 points? Come on, man. What are we doing? Colin Gordon's going to be phenomenal. Justin Knak's going to be great. But I went to bed Friday night and I was like, that's just not fun to me. Just kind of got me going a little bit.
It's not fun.
It is. Yeah. Who you got, Paul? What's your
over? Johnston versus Waukee Northwest. Ooh. I have Johnston in a high tier. I think they're a top 3, top 4 team. And I need more. Waukee Northwest, it's early. It's the overreaction for a reason. We could be looking back at this week 6 or week 7, be like, Waukee Northwest is a good football team, but they lost their guy, a lot of good guys. They returned Sam Johnson, shout out Sam Johnson, great game. But I wanted Johnston to at least put up 35 and have a nice, big, dominant win to start the season. Came down to a goal line stand, not a goal line stand, but Waukee Northwest was in a position to win the game. They had the ball, and they're in the red zone, I believe, to win the game. So, I want to see the Dragons. I wanted to see them just stick it a little more. We're both similar with the route of we want to see a team we believe was great.
And it's week one, and that's why I said it's week one. It is what it is. But yeah, I agree on the Johnston part that you're I don't know, but I was skeptical, and I'm not still skeptical, but I'm just they're good, but they took that step last year, and it was just kind of out of nowhere. They could have been a lot better record-wise if they hadn't lost to Cedar Falls and a couple teams at the beginning. So yeah, I'm with you. I think their ceiling is higher than they played on Friday night, and they know that. We're not stupid. They know they could have played better. There's no doubt in my mind. The CIML is tough. Every single game is going to be insane. But yeah, you go to the Dome. you return your quarterback, you return a wide receiver that's been really good for you. You expect to have high expectations, but give credit to Waukee Northwest, and you never know. Waukee Northwest could go out and blow the doors off Waukee this week, and then we're like, okay, good win for Johnston. But that's why we overreact.
Yeah. The thing about those Waukee teams is they're always going to be good. It's like an Ankeny school. Like, they're never going to be abysmal or terrible. So,
yeah,
I mean, there is that part of it, but I don't know. I was a little more confident in Johnson doing a little bit more, especially with some transfers coming in. They were loading up.
Yeah.
That's me. But, I mean, reality is it's an overreaction segment. Like, is this really going to affect the season? Probably not, that it was close.
No, but I feel like you and I are really going to enjoy this segment as the year goes on. And then we get like week 8 and 9, and then we're going to be like overreacting. And then we're like, okay, we really do need to be thinking about this. But
we actually,
I think, I think that's pretty good. We're going to move on to our last segment. This is our Bound to Talk Awards, where Paul and I give out a fake named off the top of our head award to a player, a team, a coach, student section, whatever. This could really go anywhere. I'm going to go with the It Runs in the Family Award, and I'm going to give it to Brady Bolton of Montezuma, who went off for the Braves. He had 11 for 21, 157 yards, and he had 3 touchdowns, and he had 121 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. So he had 6 total touchdowns in Montezuma's win over Southeast Warren. I say it runs in the family because that Bolton family and what they've done for Montezuma is kind of unbelievable. He's the younger brother of Mia and Elise Bolton. Elise Bolton and Mia were both on the Montezuma team that went to the state tournament and got their first win at the state tournament. I was at that game. I wasn't calling that game, but I was the game after it. And the emotion that those two showed, they just love the sport. Elise works for the girls' union now. What an athletic family. And it's just good to see that Brady has stepped up into that. I think he's only a sophomore. Like, Montezuma's had great players the last couple of years, like absolute dogs at quarterback. And Brady has fit right in. He's a good kid. I'm excited to watch him the rest of the year. And shout out to the Bolton family because they have been – that's a good tree of athletes that they've put out over the last couple seasons. Paul, what do you got?
Another audible, mainly because the stat initially had typo. That'll do it.
Okay.
So it was called the quarter award because someone apparently had 25 tackles. It was a typo, so that didn't happen. But we're gonna go the NCAA football 14 stat award because Bo Burns had 8 touchdowns and 1 interceptions along with 452 total yards. So we're going video game stat award. That's ridiculous.
From BGM.
That's 8 man.
Yeah, from BGM.
So I don't care that's 8 man because that's 56 points by yourself.
How fitting that it's 2 teams that are like literally separated by 15 miles. Yeah. That's just Mahaska and Power Sheet County, baby. That's how it rolls there in the
football. I tell you,
central part of Iowa. No, that's great. Congratulations to Burns and Bolton. I think that's all we got. I'm trying to think of any other wrap up things. We talked about the heat. It was bad. The heat was bad. We had a lot of cramps this week. I know Marion had a ton of cramps in their game. I saw a couple people tweeting about that. It's going to stay hot, so I'm excited to see how teams kind of play things out. We're going to see more morning practices. I hope it cools down. We'll just have to see what happens. We'll get to our week 2 preview here later this week. We might get a midweek episode in. We'll just kind of see what happens. But yeah, I want to once again just thank everyone for liking, commenting. Instagram is just blown up. We just passed 36,000 followers. What'd you say? 40K by November?
I said, 40K by November.
Yeah, 40K by November. So that's what we're going for. So it's a good time to follow sports here in the state of Iowa. We had volleyball stuff go out today with Leah and Abby and their teams of the week. Our cross-country stuff, I had a couple of people ask. Granted, cross-country people ain't going to be listening to this, but our cross-country stats are a little broken right now on Bound, just how they're being implemented, so probably no cross-country stats for a bit. Swimming might be in the same boat, but we're still going to try to post about them, so keep an eye on that. Golf is in full swing. Get it? And then we're rolling. So we appreciate everyone for following along. Paulie, got anything else to wrap up week one? I can't say for sure if it was the greatest week one ever, but it was pretty good week one.
It was right up there. Football's back. That's all I can ask for.
Football is back. The heat is back. And we're loving every second of it. So if we missed anything, just let us know. Submit some questions. I think we're going to have a Instagram post going out middle of this week for people to ask questions, or maybe on an Instagram story. Paul and I will answer some of our questions. Paul's going to keep getting better at the lower classes. He's going to be a guru of Class A and 1A by the end of the year. Jack and Paul will have picks out for their games most of the games in the classes. I stepped out because I'm sick and tired of being bulletin board material for teams, but you guys can be the bulletin board material for teams this year.
I love it.
So yeah, that's all we got. Thanks everyone for watching Bound to Talk Football. Week one is done. We're on to week two. We appreciate everyone for watching and listening. I'm Blake Walker. He's Paul Erridge. Take it easy and enjoy your next week of football. Thanks for watching.